Yeah, so my name is Patrick Riviere, and I'm a physicist, a medical physicist in the Department of Radiology at the University of Chicago.
So when you were getting started with your career, why did you choose physics?
That's a good question. I think I had a very good physics teacher in high school, and I liked the problem solving aspect of physics, the challenge of solving physics-like problems,
That's great.
and so then I continued with it into AP physics, and then in college I decided to give it a go, and yeah,
The rest,
the rest
yeah,
is
it's
history.
great.
Here I still am with some minor
Sure.
deviations. Yeah.
So what additional steps beyond just choosing physics as a major that you felt you had to do in order to get to where you are in your career?
hmm Yeah, I mean, some of those additional steps, I wasn't quite sure that I was on a straight physics trajectory, so I spent a lot of time in college doing journalism and
Okay.
writing. I ended up being the editor in chief of the weekly newspaper at college, which was a huge amount of time. And
You
in
went
this
to Harvard, right?
Harvard, yeah,
Yeah, it's a pretty big
the Harvard
paper.
Independent. Yeah, I mean the Crimson. There's a daily that's even crazier, but
Yeah.
the weekly was still sort of 30 hours a week during that year, which was kind of crazy. And so that was sort of leading me into summer jobs that were more writing related, working for the Let's Go travel guides one
Okay.
year. And then, so finally, I think after my junior year, I was like, well, if I want to consider an interest in science, I better do some research. And so fortunately got into an REU that summer doing astronomy research at the Maria Mitchell Observatory on Nantucket,
Okay.
which was just an extraordinary place to be in the summer.
I can imagine
Yeah,
going
just
to the beach every day.
amazing, and but also it was wonderful to be in a research environment, which
Yeah.
I hadn't really done a good job, or I was too busy with these other things in
hmm
college to find research projects, and I think just like the example of the astronomer Eileen, who was running the program, was just so approachable and human. I could sort of see myself more in her than in some of the high energy physics professors at Harvard, for
Yeah.
example. So that's a good question. I mean, I should rethink it now because I do enjoy writing, and I miss it. I mean, at the time I was thinking, as I finished, I was thinking of science writing as a potential career path. I was minoring in like history and philosophy of
That's
science,
great.
which was fascinating. And so then I did a year after Harvard. I did a year at Cambridge where I did just basically philosophy of physics
Wow.
research and sort of attending the seminars that the master's students would have been doing. Well, I wasn't really in a formal program, but I was doing all the classes that they would have done, and then working with somebody on philosophy of physics, and that was sort of fascinating, and lots of thinking and writing, and also something I decided I wasn't actually that kind of thinking that I wasn't good enough at to want to do for the rest of my life. And it was actually while I was there that I saw a poster up about a series of lectures on medical physics, and I at that point I'd literally never seen those two words next to each other before. I mean, as you said, the field is not super well known now, but it was really not well
Yeah.
known in the mid '90s,
Yeah, that's right.
and so I went to those lectures and was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And so then I came back to the States, came to Chicago, and here I still am. There's a lot more of those opportunities now. The Professional Society, the American Association of Physicists in Medicine, now has a number of funded summer slots.
That's great.
And so more and more of the applicants we see to our PhD program have already had some research experience in medical physics, which is not at all necessary to get into our program, but we're just seeing more people know about it earlier and are.
Another off the cuff question. As somebody who's looking at PhD candidates, what would you say is like the thing that you look for when you're like reviewing graduate applications?
Yeah, really an interest in doing research and an aptitude. Basically, having some, relatively significant exposure to research so that
what you're getting into.
what you're getting into. That simply because somebody's an outstanding classroom student doesn't mean they enjoy the process of, struggling with open-ended questions or problems that might not have an answer or things that might be dead ends. And so
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, so seeing that people have had that experience and have sort of, banged their head against a problem for a few weeks and found a way out or known when to ask for help, that's often, I think, for us a predictor of success in a program.
Great. Grit and resilience.
And resilience,
yeah. So how has studying physics been a win for your career? Or has it been a win?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think it really gave me the habits of mind to know how to formulate problems and solve problems and, the mathematical skills and, to a lesser extent, the computational skills. I mean, I came up in the era of physics where we didn't have to even touch a computer to get an undergraduate degree, but you kind of pick them up as you go along. And, I think all of those things have certainly helped in what I'm doing now.
So what's a typical day look like for you?
That's a good question. Yeah. So I'm purely on the research and education side of medical physics, unlike, there are colleagues in the offices, about half the colleagues in this suite are, board certified clinical medical physicists. So they are credentialed to actually
on the floor
take care of equipment that will be used on patients. And, I didn't seek that credential. I just wanted to do research. And so for me, I'm meeting with people in my lab to check on, both individually to check on progress of, research projects. I had my lab meeting this morning. So then all, sort of 6 of us got together and talked about, what everybody's up to. And that way they can give each other feedback. I'm on a grant review panel, so I was sort of downloading and, printing out the meaty parts of the grants that I need to read over the next few weeks. And, I have now, at this point in my career, some administrative responsibilities. So working on some of those things, somebody's leaving, so we've got to make sure all their people can transfer out smoothly and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of a typical day. And then I teach a reasonable amount, both graduate students, but also undergraduates. We do at least one, actually now in our group, we do 2 courses aimed at undergraduates in medical physics.
Okay.
So I do an introduction to medical physics course.
So this would be for a physics major.
Yeah, they're sort of targeted at physics majors, although we've kind of broadened over the years. We've found that, people coming from a chemistry background, people coming from molecular engineering, computer science, even math can usually do it. And it's a course, because we're in the biological sciences division here, it's listed as a biosci course, and it can count as one of their sort of biology electives. They have to do kind of a broader first elective, and this can be their topics course. And so it's nice because it feels like sort of a biomedical applications of physical sciences course that, the students who take it appreciate. And they also appreciate, I think, the applied nature of it. We don't have a lot of engineering here at Chicago other than this new molecular engineering institute. We don't have any of the other classic engineering fields. Like we had no engineering at all until, I think it's 10 years ago. We just celebrated.
Really find that surprising.
Yeah, it was sort of a conscious decision over the history of the university. At some point in the 40s, the president was asked about engineering, and he said, "We don't think that here." And 2 presidents ago, President Zimmer, basically said, at the turn of the 1900s into the 2000s, into the or the late 1800s into the 1900s, we decided to go deep into physics and chemistry, and that was a good investment. And he was making the argument, that this molecular engineering, sort of nanoscale engineering, is a ship we can't afford to miss. Like,
Yeah.
this is going to be, there's a certain kind of science you can't even do without people who do those kinds of things. And so that's been new.
It's interesting that you talk about this having undergraduate classes and graduate level classes, and then we're also sitting in a hospital.
Right.
And so it really seems like a great opportunity for the University of Chicago students.
Absolutely, yeah. And we have, we sort of expose them. We do tours in some of these classes, or more often in some of the summer research programs that we do. Take them over to see the interventional radiology suite, so they can see, like, wow, this technology is not just in a textbook. Like, there are, X-ray units and flat panel detectors mounted on C-arms that are moving, live in real time around a patient, while these physicians are steering catheters under that image guidance. And it's really
pretty amazing.
It's really pretty amazing, yeah, to see it live. We have one suite that has a CT scanner in there also. You can do the patient under this guidance, and if you try to ablate a tumor or block off a blood vessel, and you want to really see, okay, did this work? Is nothing flowing? You can, have the couch that they're on just roll into a CT scanner and get a full 3D image.
That's beautiful.
It's really kind of sci-fi for the students. Yeah. And in fact, the interventional radiologist, who's no longer here, but who used to often be the one who would give the tour, he would tell the students, the best preparation to be an interventional radiologist is to play a lot of video games. He says it's all hand-eye screen coordination. He's like, that's how I got my way into this field.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean that and actually is the answer to the next question. But do you have I would say, if you have a funny story to tell, and that's kind of a cute one. Is there any other stories you want to share kind of with the student out there? And I know I'm putting you on the spot,
yeah.
So if we want to move on, we can do that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I can't think of, if I think of one, I'll.
Okay,
yeah,
great. So what's one thing you wish you knew when you were in college that you didn't know?
Yeah, I think the importance of computational skills was not as obvious to me then. I think it's probably more obvious to the students of today. Coming up in the mid-90s, we had sort of crude, unconnected laptops to do work on, and there was sort of the rudiments of the internet and email in the basement of the science center. But the idea that all of this would be at the center of almost everything we do was maybe not as obvious to me then as it was to. I mean, some of my classmates were pioneers in the first wave of internet.
Sure.
Companies, and have done well for themselves, but they were mostly the computer science majors who saw which way the wind was blowing. But I mean, those kinds of sort of physics adjacent skills, and not to neglect other ones like writing and speaking. Those were sort of more a part of what I did as an undergraduate.
Right, you had all that writing experience.
I had all that writing, but,
Of course, Harvard's really big on the liberal arts.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was a pretty, out of 32 courses, I probably, well under half were physics, because we had a wide range of distribution requirements, and I did almost a second major in history and philosophy of science. So,
great.
Yeah.
So what advice do you give to somebody who's just starting out?
Yeah, I think certainly looking for research opportunities as early as you can. If you think that's a direction you might want to go into, there are definitely a lot of excellent summer programs, a lot of REUs looking for students, and seeking advice from people about how best to present yourself for those opportunities. How to write your CV, how to write your statements, and taking some time on those, because those can really set you on a path to success. As I mentioned, my own daughter, who was at Wellesley, I was able to at least point her in the direction of, around Christmas time of the first year, like, hey, if you're interested in and she is a physics major. She was at that point. If you're interested in summer research, you should look into these REUs. And, I know a lot of them maybe are not always looking for first years, but you never know. And so she submitted one. And in fact, somebody had a recently funded REU where the angle they took was, we're going to primarily look for first years to try to get them into this sort of nanoscience, material science direction.
Started.
And so she got to be in Manhattan for a summer at CCNY.
Sounds amazing.
So as a theater person and physics person, to be on a one-seat ride to Broadway was pretty magical for her.
Yeah.
And then that once she had that under her belt, she got one basically every year. She got one the next year at the University of Minnesota, and found her way into sort of computational physics, and soft matter, condensed matter, and then she followed that to some research at Wellesley that led to another REU at Yale, which was they had been working on using some software that had come out of the Yale group at Wellesley, and so she was able to write a very strong application and interview because she knew exactly what this lab did. And so, but I think starting as a first year kind of set her on track to climb that ladder.
I think a lot of people get worked up over not having the perfect opportunity when they're started.
Right.
Where just getting started is better, because you set that up so that in the next year they see that success and say, oh, well, this person already has had a boss.
Exactly.
They've already worked in the lab. They already know what's going on.
Right.
I don't have to teach them that.
Exactly.
I can start.
They have some skills. You'll have a letter at that point, from somebody who's not just a classroom teacher.
Right.
And then, of course, if you can find, research opportunities on campus, that's great also. The two can complement each other. And, my second child found a summer research program on campus at Macalester after first year. Also got some national REU offers, but for a variety of reasons, staying in St. Paul that summer made sense, and had a really good experience, and now got into the MIT summer research program this year, and again, it was, I think, building on the strength of that one, this person has a summer of research under their belt, and I think probably had a strong ladder, and, you start to sort of climb the ladder.
Great.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you want to share? Just a moment of, give you the floor. If not, that's fine. We can end up.
Yeah, I think, resilience is an important skill. It's not a linear trajectory. Sorry, I've lost my mic.
No, it's okay. Linear resilience.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of setbacks, as you start writing, grant proposals, the vast majority of those are rejected, are failures. And so, you have to sort of develop a thick skin. And this is even, as you're applying for REUs, as you're applying for, graduate school, it's not always a smooth road. But, I think there's...
even the people at the elite universities are saying this.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a place. So there's a place for, I think there's a place for everyone in physics. And, you just have to steer your path through it and remain confident, keep your head up, and come back for more.
Great.
Yeah.